Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to our live stream. Welcome to At the Closet Conservative. You can see the back of Vic's head.
I'm sorry, guys. I was trying to bring up something on my computer and behind me tonight, but
That's okay. Well, you guys have seen the what we're going to be talking about tonight. And we just got a question. The question is, are Black women hurting the Black community?
yeah,
And ladies, are we responsible for the state of the Black community right now, the way it is right now in modern times? So that's the discussion we're going to be having tonight. And I think it's a discussion that's long overdue.
yeah, and
We
I
think,
think it is. I think it
yeah,
is. It was just something that came to my mind, and
yes. Vic brought
and
it up.
I just as
Yes.
with this subject, and I just thought it was very relevant of what's happening today. Now, let's talk about it. Have
Yes.
you
Talk
seen
about it.
TikTok lately? Have you seen, I'm gonna swim? And then you have the mother and the kids, and then you have young little boys twerking or putting their, I mean, stuff like that. Is that something that a mother should be teaching her young son? And because she's coming from a single family, they're coming from a single family home, and she is the head of the house. These are the things that she is exhibiting to her son, and her son is picking up feminine traits, feminine traits. And that's another issue that we're going to get into today. Go ahead, Kim.
Okay. So what we want to kind of do is talk about the who, what, when, where, how, just
Yeah,
to kind of frame, because this topic is so vast and broad. We kind of want to narrow it down. So of
yeah,
course the who is the Black women. Um, and as we were doing research on this and talking about statistics, we found some interesting things and some interesting trends that started after 1965. So a
yeah,
lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about really addresses those of us modern women who,
yes,
because interestingly enough, before 1965, before the institution of some policies, through Jim Crow, through slavery, the
yeah,
Black community was doing well. And
yes,
one statistic that we know
the
is that
fact,
the facts that we know, because I mean, you can take statistics and you can twist them, but statistically, factually, families, the fabric of any society is intact families, right? A
right?
mama, a daddy, and a child.
Yes,
Children do so much better growing up in two-parent households.
full
No
family.
shade to our gay brothers and sisters. We know you love kids and stuff, and you can raise them and stuff. But the optimum, we're talking about the optimum and the ideal is for a mama and a daddy in the household. And that's not to say that gay folks can't raise kids. I'd rather them have loving gay parents than hateful
Abusive.
or bad heterosexual parents.
Right.
So that that issue isn't a problem. The what is the Black community, or the what is the impact of single motherhood.
Yes.
Black single motherhood is on the Black community. So we're not going to talk a lot about the mothers who are, the Black women who are married. And we're not trying to pick on single mothers. But unfortunately, at an alarming rate, a lot of Black children are born to single mothers or are living in households headed by single mothers. And that includes me. I'm a divorced mother, and I was divorced when my children were still, my son was a teenager and my daughters were preteens, and I was divorced. So I was head of a household with a son and two girls in it. So it's definitely something that is prevalent in our community,
And
and we'll
I want to put this
go
out
ahead,
there
sis.
as well. That we're going to get into. You are designed by our creator. How, whether you look at it as female, male, you were created by a creator, and that creator made male and female. You have a role, okay? Because this is the problem with one of the issues within the Black community. is that we have extracted that male role model out of our home, whether you're married to him or just cohabitating with that father figure in that home. It still makes a difference. If you have not just a whole bunch of fathers coming in, just one father, okay, and just cohabitating with one father with the same children, those children still can thrive in that home, okay?
Right.
And, because institution of marriage, what is it? You can define it in many ways nowadays, because people have so many open marriages and stuff. So how can you say it's a marriage if you have open marriage? That's why I'm saying it doesn't make any sense. So you can have cohabiting adults, responsible adults having children in one family, and that family is consisting of mother and father and children. Okay,
right,
without the certificate from the government tracking in your every move. So
unfortunately, that's part of the problem, right? Black women got married to the government in 1965 after the passing of the Welfare Act. I don't know what, but the implementation of welfare. We called it AFDC, all families of dependent children back in the day. So you could get a check, you can get food stamps. Later on, Section 8 came in. Then they started giving scholarships, providing daycare. So you got to think about it. Men are providers by nature. Like you said, we have roles. Women, we're the nurturers. The men are the providers. So when you come along and the government takes away the man, they become the provider. They're providing shelter. They're providing food. Yes. They're providing, the things ordinarily, daycare.
Because the men are the hunters. The men are the hunters. They're supposed to go out and they're supposed to hunt, or
to take care of provide for their family, right? So when you take the men out of that picture, then the women become the providers. Yeah. And so from the aspect, and as we were doing our research, so one of the three main areas that we really wanted to talk about in relationship to how Black women may be impacting, hurting the Black community. And this is an open conversation. We're not here to indict Black women. We're just here, and single Black mothers. We're here to kind of shine a light on the subject, because I think if you don't acknowledge what you see and what is obvious, we can never fix it. And our goal is to help repair and fix the Black community. So the three areas that we really were looking in while we were doing our research and preparing for is marriage. And even with single Black mothers, we want to talk about that. We alluded to that a little bit earlier when we talked about children being raised in a two-parent family. The health of Black women, and unfortunately, abortion is one area too. Abortion is huge in our community.
Yes.
And an interesting statistic is that white women get way more abortions than Black women. They're in the majority, so that just makes sense. But when you talk about rate-wise or percentage-wise, we are responsible for more abortions in our community. So I think the number was almost 30% rate. It was something like 27, 28. So we'll look at it too, because we found an interesting website that I got from somebody in the Black manosphere, and I know a lot of the sisters don't like them. Were you talking, Vic? Because I didn't hear you. Can I still hear you? No, I lost you. Wait a minute. Let's see. I lost your sound. Can you get your sound back on? Vic is gonna probably go out and come back in. But in the meantime, what I was alluding to was there's a website called blackdemographics.com. It has a wealth of information for everything, statistics for Black women, for Black men, for children, for culture, but everything and this is the United States, everything related to our culture. Hi, Miss Elaine, how are you? Kay Elaine, I see you. Welcome back.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
Thank you for joining us. We got Katie Lane who said hello. So thank you for joining us. I was just kind of going over the 3 areas that we were talking about, and I was alluding to the website blackdemographics.com, where we got a lot of our information, and kind of the 3 areas that we wanted to focus on this particular topic, because it is so broad. We could be talking about this. And we probably
push back on a lot of the stuff on some of
oh yeah, I know. That's okay.
It's statistically proven, and and if you look at the condition of the black family, it's recorded that we are worse. People are worse off than they were when they were coming out of slavery. When it comes down to the home, Thomas Sowell, he said the same thing on one of his videos.
Okay. All right. And Kimberly, okay, K.E. Lane, your name is Kimberly too. All right, you must be beautiful. We're friends on Facebook, she's saying. Thank you for joining us today. Make sure that you like and share and subscribe to our channel, please. And share this conversation. This is an important conversation that we're having. So, I can just from, we're seasoned females. We're seasoned Black females. We've had a lot of experience and wisdom between the 2 of us. And I just think that a lot of times in our space, we're not willing to listen to outside voices, which is understandable. So I feel comfortable having this conversation in this space because a lot of these women are my sisters, my children, my aunties, my cousins, my grandchildren. And I think that we have to have this conversation because we want better outcomes. Our community definitely needs to be healed. But first, we have to start with self. That's one of the things me and Vic agree on a lot, is that self first. I think a lot of us look to the Black men to fix the problems in the Black, and they have their responsibility. Don't get me wrong. They are culpable in so many ways. However, they have to fix that themselves. I believe we have to fix those things that we're responsible for, that we can fix, because you can't fix anybody else.
Absolutely.
That's just the bottom line. Is the bottom line.
First of all, you got to identify that you got an issue. And I think in our community, we're Black women are very strong. We have strong personalities. When we have our mind set on something, our mind is fixed. That's what we're going to do. Very hard to deter you away from that. However, if you're receiving good sound guidance and direction, we have to learn to open up and be willing to accept those who may be more seasoned than ourselves to help us get to that level. I'm getting some feedback from you. I don't know if it's something from...
I'm getting a little bit from you too. Wait a minute.
It's you.
Yeah, but I hear yours too. So like when I hear me talk, I don't hear the feedback as much. It may be, when you're dealing with technology.
I know. Yeah, right. It could be anything and everything.
Right. So it will fit. Look, anybody who's joining in on the stream or looking at it later, we're a little new to this game, and we're learning as we go along. We're newbies. So we're learning as we go along, and I absolutely expect that this will get better as we get better, as we go along and we have these discussions. So if you're hearing a little bit of feedback or anything like that, please forgive us. Just hang in there with us. And
we promise we're going to bring it
we'll
back.
go from there.
But Kim, what do you want to get into now? What do you want to, what topic? Where are we going right now?
So the 3 areas that we were going to talk about with the effect of the Black women that are having on the Black community, if we're hurting the Black community. The 3 topics we were going to talk about was marriage, health, and abortion, right? And I guess abortion may even come under the health issue. But remember, we talked about obesity amongst Black women, the whole body positivity movement, which personally, I
Lizzo.
think is a lie.
And
Because
they
we're
get
told,
Lizzo, and then they wait a minute, they get Lizzo to pander to the black community how to stay unhealthy. You can't make this stuff up. You know, we're using the same faces that look like us, that identify with us, to basically to cripple us even further. So
right,
this is where the being educated is very important. The black community tend to run to celebrities and actors and actresses of color, and they try to get feedback from them of what's going on. And you know
right.
what, these are the things that's causing the detriment to our community for
Right. Instead
decades
of
and
looking
decades.
right to grandma,
Yeah,
great
yeah,
grandma, mama, those who raised us, who
yeah.
had, and unfortunately, since 1965, you got to think about it too. That's when the out of wedlock birth rate started going up. That's when younger people
Yep.
started having. Although, now here's my argument: I don't have a problem with young people having babies. Excuse me. Because back in the day, grandma and granddaddy got married in their teens and started having babies. I think my grandmother and grandfather were married. My grandmother was 16 when they got married. That's
Okay.
when my mother was born.
Okay.
My grandmother was 16 going on 17. They had 5 children, but
Okay.
they were married.
Yeah.
See, that's the issue. I don't have a problem with young people having babies. The problem is when you're having them as a single parent, a baby having a baby without the support of a husband or a spouse. It's bad for black,
Yeah.
for the children. And Kimberly made a comment: black women have a bad habit of having kids by men they know wouldn't be a good father, like all of the women that have kids by Future. Oh my gosh. I mean, after baby mama too, the rest is
Yeah.
ridiculous. I agree. And here's the
Yeah.
thing too: we have control over who women have the control. We have control over who we have a baby by. We ain't got to open our legs. We can say no.
But the thing about it is, you got to kind of look at history. You have one guy in the neighborhood fathered 5 different girls. Every girl, 5 girls. Every girl has a baby by the same guy. This is kind of like plantation mentality. Let's
Okay.
get down to it. This is plantation mentality, and on the plantation, this is what was going on, and stuff like this is it's like a cycle after the 60s, because what happened was, when it was said that we came out of slavery, we came out as a family unit. We had
Mhm.
the welfare with Lyndon Johnson, the freebie, and then we came back of kicking the father out of the home.
Right.
Then you started having they're saying okay to have one more baby to add on to your income. So then we have that. So it's something that has to be psychologically dealt with physicians, doctors,
Yeah.
psychologists, to deal with this, because this is something. And as I was thinking about it in the last couple of days, I was like saying this is the same type of mentality that went on in during slavery. You had a young man that the master saw was a stallion, and they could make good big babies. This is
Make strong
what
babies. Right. They were used as bucks to procreate and make more slaves. I
more,
got
this
that.
is what I'm saying. And not
Yeah.
just any type of slave, strong
Right. Right.
stout
They got the big
baby.
bucks. And now on the flip side of that too, Vic, I don't know if you know this. They used to take the biggest, strongest, blackest men and humiliate them in front of everybody else. So they would make them as an example. I mean, they did things like rape them in front of the whole crowd to let them know that if we can do this to this biggest, blackest, strongest man, then y'all know y'all ain't got nothing coming. That was another way to psychologically beat us and make us know that if we step out of line, you're going to get some smoke. And that's
Yeah,
modern day language,
but that kind
unfortunately.
of but what I was trying to make the correlation to is that when it's unbridled within when it's continuous psychologically embedded in us, as centuries go on, you begin to just you begin to I You begin to act the same way that previously was done to you or forced onto you by
Right.
someone else. You continue to build that same cycle within the community. And this is why we're having so many women who lives in the same project complex with the same father. 5 different young ladies with the same baby daddy. You
So
know,
I think we can agree that that has had a negative impact on the
yes,
community. Now, of course, a Black man has his participation in it, because I hear a lot of Black men in the Black manosphere talking about having penis control. Like, control, don't just be going out here having, unprotected sex just because you can. So that's on them. However, on the flip side of that, we women have control over who we have sex with,
yes,
because we have to
yes,
say yes to do it, right? We
yes.
got, unless they're raping us, and that's of course an issue, but it's a small part of it. The biggest part of the problem. So going back to marriage, and I guess what we're saying is marriage is a big part of this issue of what's affecting the Black community. And I want to show a graphic right quick. Let me see if I can pull this up. This was one of the, let me see, Chrome. This is one of the issues that we were talking about. If you look at, wait a minute, there we go. So if you look at this statistic, and it shows the marriage rate amongst Black women, all women, right? This number to me is very, very concerning. So you can see the chart is showing the Black women and compared to all women. So the divorce rate, we're about the same, 13% for Black women, 12% for all women. We're widowed at 8%, and all women are widowed at 9%. Separated, we're at 4%, all women are at 2%. Currently married, 26% of Black women are married. Of all women, 46%. However, if you look at that number of never married, 48%, that's almost half of us will never get married. That to me causes concern, yes.
And let me just interject with that too. The reason why you also have that high rate, you have to look at the education rate now. You have more Black women going to college and achieving more than a bachelor's than Black males.
Yeah.
So they're not only just they're out educating Black males as well. So you have someone who is coming out of college and have 2 masters or a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
And they're able to earn a salary of $50,000. They don't want to have someone that's only making have $12 an hour job.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a color thing.
Yes.
I don't think that's a color thing. You know what I'm saying? I think that's.
Now, Kevin in sales dropped the link. I appreciate that, Kevin. I'm definitely going to try to do that. Like I said, we're learning, and it's for a reason I can't get into the chat. I'm looking at it. Even if come back to the stream, and I'll put it in the description box so that you can get the link. But the website is blackdemographics.com. Blackdemographics.com. That's where we look. So, but that in itself, when we talk about that particular, 48% of Black women will never get married. Now, I know a lot of women think that ain't a big deal. We don't need a man, and I can do bad all by myself. But
woman, no, you can't.
To the detriment of our community, ladies. I'm just saying that nobody's saying you got to go out and get married and that's what you got to do. A lot of us do fine without being married, but you got to think about where we are. Economically, we're suffering. Relationship wise, we're suffering. What are our outcomes right now? And to me, that's ultimately the bottom line. When you look at even in the education, we didn't even talk about that, but look at our young Black boys who are reading on average nationally at an 8th grade level.
That's sad. That's sad.
That's not necessarily saying that Black women cause that, but I could make the correlation. I can't say the causation, but I would go so far as say there is a correlation between, you know, not being married and having our children read at such a low level.
Exactly.
That I just think you can't, like I said, I'm not going to go as far as to say causation because I don't know that. But you can make a correlation. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the
so the other thing, go ahead, sis.
It's not even just you also have behaviors. You're having young kids in juvie hall, so young because of that, you know, coming from those single family homes, mother, you know, a mom, no father figure, no type of leadership, discipline figure within that home. And you have a child in 8th grade in juvie hall.
Hey guys, I just dropped the link just so you'll know. I just dropped the link. I found it. I figured it out. So Kevin in sales, there's the link to blackdemographics.com. Okay, I put it in the chat, so it is there. I figured it out. See, look, we're pretty good at picking up on stuff. We're seasoned, but we'll figure stuff out. That's the awesome thing.
So I think that, you know,
yes,
the role model for the young Black boy is imperative. We're in a crisis here. We are in a crisis, and you know, people want to say it a different way, but no, it's a crisis. It's not just a crisis; it's a mental crisis, because a lot of people need psychological help. And our community is the type of community that we don't want to say that we have a mental issue.
Yeah, I definitely agree that there's you know, a lot, and then in the Black community, we're a little averse to, you know, therapy and counseling and psychological help. But you have to think about, and I'm not one big on victimhood, you know, we don't believe in victimhood, but you still have to acknowledge when there's a problem and fix it. Mm-hmm. So you have to consider, you know, in the Black diaspora, I always say that wrong, the diaspora, the African diaspora, you know, what we've been through psychologically. But see, this is where I know that that's an excuse and not necessarily the norm, because after slavery, number one, we had that 10-year Reconstruction period, right? When we did very well. Yes. We became doctors, lawyers, politicians. We were booming. Okay. Then here comes Jim Crow. It crippled us a little bit, but even in Jim Crow, we still created Black Wall Street, right? We still had, I think it was here in North Carolina. I cannot remember the name of the city that was thriving, but, you know, a lot of white folks came in. Is it Rosewood? I can't remember.
I know. I know they were thriving very much so in Greenville, North Carolina.
Yeah, and they came and destroyed, you know, a lot of white liberal KKK came and destroyed that city and killed a lot of Black folks, because initially Black folks started the Republican Party. I know a lot of folks don't want to hear that, but it was Frederick Douglass. Yeah. And a lot of white abolitionists who didn't believe in slavery that started the Republican Party.
Absolutely.
So Kimberly said, why not pick a decent guy to co-parent with at least? I agree. But see, that's what I'm saying. The responsibility, what'd you say?
People sometimes think it's slim pickings. When you are in a community where you see poverty at a very alarming rate, what happens is you see so many Black males in prison. You see so many Black males in prison. So you feel that you're slim pickings. Then you come with slim pickings. You see people having, why do women have boyfriends in prison having children with men in prison? Why would they do that?
Well, this is a real number. It's 2 million more women, Black women, than there are Black men. So that's
because you know why?
Probably a lot of man sharing going on right now.
Killing your babies. Stop slaughtering your children.
Right, you're killing the man.
Babies.
So that's the other thing, abortion. I'm going to see if I can find that statistic too, because I think we did talk about that, didn't we? About the abortion rate.
Yes.
Um,
That's alarming, very alarming.
we did find, like we said, let me see, let me find the health tab. Yeah, here it is. That white women have more abortions than black women. It just makes sense because we're a minority.
Yes.
However, let me get on. However, when we talk about it from a percentage wise, so I'm gonna bring that graphic up right quick. Let me see if I can share that. I did find it. Let me share that. That's a very interesting statistic. So if you guys look at that, do African American women have the most abortions? That's a great question, isn't it? It's the very thing we're talking about. So white women, like I was telling you, white women have the most abortions of any race, ethnic group, but black women are overrepresented, making up 27.6% of all abortions, while only comprising 14.9% of all women in the nation, giving us the highest abortion rate in the United States. Why? African American women are also overrepresented in 4 of the major factors that leads to abortions. Number 1, unintended pregnancies. Number 2, relationships.
Yes.
Number 3, lack of contraceptive use. And number 4, poverty. So these are contributing factors to why we are overrepresented in the abortion industry. So, and it goes back to us, those. Now, somebody made a really good point. I think it's either Larry Elder said it or Thomas Sowell, because I love Thomas Sowell. We all know him.
Yes.
He's a great economist. There are 3 things that will keep you out of poverty.
Yes.
Right? Graduate high school, get a job, and get married before you have kids. That's right. Just a statistical fact. Yes. That's just a statistical fact. And if you think about it.
And it's not systemic racism. Those are facts.
Say that again.
That's not systemic racism. Those are facts.
Those are facts, right. So those things are very important if you want to stay. Just 3 simple things. Graduate from high school, get employment, get a job, and
we all wrestle with that image problem. Everyone wrestles with it. I'm not tall enough. I'm not slender enough. I don't have this. I need to go and get surgery here. I need to go and get this there, knit tuck. We all go through the same thing.
Right.
When it comes down to healthy eating and healthy choices, that is something that we need to nail home and really focus on, because whatever we eat, we feed our children.
Right. And that's the thing. We saw that. So if you look at this chart that I pulled up, you guys, it has obesity percent by race and by sex, right? So the blue line represents men. The red line represents women. And let me see if I can get this up a little bit. And you can see it's by race, right? And sex. So in the Black community, which is the only one we're talking about right now, you can see 55% of, and this is obesity. This means just talking about overweight. And let me define obesity for you. Me and Vic had this conversation yesterday, and we talked about
BMI.
Right, the BMI, and she qualified it, and I understand. But according to the CDC, and now, as far as I'm concerned, the CDC, it has its own issues and history when it comes to Black folks. But according to CDC, a person is overweight if they have a BMI, that's body mass index, of more than 25. Obesity begins when a person has a BMI of 30 or more. Yes. The CDC considers obesity a serious chronic disease. It increases one's risk of developing conditions such as high blood pressure, which is very prevalent in our community. Diabetes, type 2 diabetes is an adult onset diabetes. That comes from lifestyle. Type 2 diabetes is not by accident. It's lifestyle, a lot of times by what you're eating. Type 2 diabetes type 1 diabetes is in children. And that's usually in young people. And that's because their pancreas is not producing enough insulin. So they have to take insulin for the rest of their life. It also, BMI, obesity contributes to heart disease, stroke, gallbladder disease, and cancer of the breast, prostate, and colon.
And the
That
thing,
I find that very interesting because I'm actually a breast cancer survivor. And I know I've had issues with my weight. I've been as big as 232 pounds. That was right after I had a baby. And look, I carried a lot of that around. My daughter was 9 years old and I was still talking about I was still 50 pounds overweight. And I was saying it was baby weight until I had to hold that mirror up and
so
say,
in other words, you had a problem with reality.
I did. I was in denial. I was in denial, but I lost that 50 pounds now. Hold on now. So
But you know what the thing about it is that you know, certain foods, we eat a lot of starchy foods. You eat a lot of macaroni, boiled macaroni, cheese macaroni, rices. And the thing about it is rice is not bad, but what happens is they shave off what's on the rice that helps you break it down to keep you from getting the insulin part, what causes you with diabetes. But
yeah,
if they didn't shave off the husk on the rice, you wouldn't want it because it wouldn't taste right.
gotcha.
So that's another reason why. But if we left it on, you know, rice wouldn't be so detrimental to your health. Usually,
Plus, don't they bleach rice too? Like rice is really brown; it's not white. Is that accurate?
I don't know. No, if it's like a grain, rice is considered grain, and you're just taking off that husky part of it for white
Yeah,
rice.
yeah,
And then I guess you leave it on. And that's why a lot of people don't like brown rice, but brown rice is even much better than the white rice. But people don't
yeah.
like it because you have a different texture on it and a different taste. And it's the same thing with wild rices. A lot of people don't like the wild rice because it comes with that, you know.
Right. Now, I got another statistic I want to show you guys, especially when it comes to the health and obesity. So, with the things that we've talked about, right, that Black women, and especially here recently, being head of household, so we're responsible, even if we're not head, even if we're in families.
Yes.
A lot of times we're responsible for what our families
Right.
eat. I mean,
Absolutely.
I mean, I was fortunate enough. Look, I was fortunate enough to have a husband who cooked. I didn't have to cook. I mainly was the house cleaner, and he liked cooking. So, you know I'm more the exception of the rule. But he loved to cook, and thank God he taught our daughter how to cook because she loves to cook now too. But if you look at this graphic, Black children are our girls are 25% overweight, obese, and our Black boys are at a 19% overweight. Now, the only ones beating us when it comes to the boys is the Hispanic boys. Hispanic little girls are around the same as where we are. They're at 24% obese. And then the white and the Asian community is way down there, 12 and 10%. White community is a 15 and 14. But if you look at our numbers and where we are, that to me, that's something that we have to be concerned about, because what I read about what the CDC said about the types of health issues that obesity leads to, and those types of issues, and then we're passing that on to our children, that we get that correlation again. Like I don't like to go as far as saying causation, but if you look at those numbers and you look at what's happening in our community, you got to start thinking like,
But you know, it's so funny. Kevin Samuels said something about weights in the Black community with Black women. He says that's is that a reason? The weight for Black women is the reason they are still single. It said, "Is your weight?" The topic was, "Is your weight keeping you single?"
Yeah.
And he did a program on July 20th, 2020.
Okay.
About that, and he said it may not be the causation, but it could be correlation that this is the reason why so many Black women are still single, because
Right.
Black community. And he also said, he spoke about how Black women wanting to get that A-list man, but when it comes down to that A-list man looking at how you look, how you present yourself, building a family with you where you can destroy his children, that would be questionable. And I could totally agree with him when he said that.
I was going to say, I think those are some valid points, and they're worth discussion.
Yeah.
And like you said, and now on the flip side of that, especially being a Black woman in the Black community and being a little heavy in the back, one thing I do know about Black men, they like big butts. So that, and then I remember looking at some of those pictures, like from National Geographic, of African women who just had big butts. No, we didn't. Oh no, we weren't like as heavy, but we did have big behinds.
Listen, the thing about it is that if you look back at pictures of your family members in the 70s and the 80s, I looked at my family portrait. Everybody was skinny. Right.
Well, here's the other thing too. Once we went out of the home and start cooking our, number one, you got the standard American diet, whose acronym is SAD, which is what it is. The advent of fast foods and convenience foods and processed foods and stuff like the things that you said. And then the standard American diet started telling us we got to eat 3 meals a day plus 2 snacks. So we're eating 5 times a day. And it's absolutely having a bad impact on our community. And I know for a fact, I see it a lot, especially with single mothers, that we're stopping at McDonald's because look, we didn't went out and worked all day. We got to pick up the kids, and instead of them having a meal, they're going to have McDonald's.
But you know, the thing about it is, my mom, she was an RN, and she had night shifts. And I remember on Friday, she would make all the meats. Not Friday, on Sunday evening, all the meats.
That's what I'm saying. Past generations did it. It's not like women shouldn't work. We're not saying that. Where there's a will, there's a way.
My mom did it for 9 children. All of the meats for the week
was cooked on. Yeah.
She made a big old pot of, whether it was cabbage, whether it was collard greens, something, greens. And then when she would come, it was if she gave us a little we had rice or something like that.
Right.
But we didn't eat out.
Yeah.
There was still home cooked meals being prepared for the family. And
right.
At the time of those meals that was being heated up or prepared, homework was being done right there, where that you interact with your children. And I did it with my daughter. She'd sit there at the counter and I'd cook, and she'd have a book there, and we talk about what happened in school. She'd have a snack, she opened a book, and we start talking about the day. What happened to that? What happened to that in our community? Why are we expecting?
And especially, I would say, in defense of Black women, I mean, we've been bombarded, and so much is expected of us, right? We've been bombarded with all kinds of messages, which I think is on purpose. I don't think the stuff that we're seeing, that we've been seeing for the last 50, 60 years is by happenstance. And we've been bombarded with so many different messages. And I just think those messages, buying into those messages these days, now those chickens are coming home to roost. And we just have to recognize what is going on, and then we have to fix it. So I understand the messages are there, but we have to start to discern and recognize those messages and doing things to fix them. I know for me, and we were talking about this just before we came on to the live, I asked family, friends for input on me, because I know I've been in those, being a Black woman raised in the United States, I've been in those spaces where I don't need a man. Yeah, I've been married, but I've been in that space. Open to some of these issues and not, feeling like I'm the strong one. I'm going to run my household and I don't need you. I know I've had a lot of, and I'm working on this, a lot of masculine energy. And so I get input, and I've heard that, and I'm working on fixing myself first. and then sharing what I'm learning with others. And that's why I think this conversation was so important. And I'm so glad that, you brought it up and said, let's have this. And this is something we can talk about. And, we can get on the brothers next week if need be, but this is women talking to women. We're familiar with this subject because we are, Black women.
And we want to do better. We want to do better, because for us to do better, the community does better. And that's the bottom line. You want to do better? And if you want to do better, okay, you'll be better. And if you be better, you can help the community to do better as well.
Mm-hmm. And plus, I always hear this analogy, which I think is excellent. As we're winding down. I think we're getting close. Yeah, we got about 2 or 3 minutes left. But as we're winding down, I hear this analogy, and I know I've heard, some content creators probably on YouTube or something. I can't remember who it is. I can't even give them credit.
Mm-hmm.
But the analogy is, when you're taking a flight, mm-hmm. and a flight attendant is, before you take off, is giving you all of the safety protocols and what you got to do in the case mm-hmm. of an emergency. One of the first things they tell you is, because, if the plane decompresses, those little masks fall down, right?
That's right.
They tell you to put your mask on first.
Yep.
Then if it's a child or somebody sitting next to you,
Yep.
elderly person or whatever, then you put theirs on. So, and I know that they're making a point is that you got to heal self first. You got to focus on self first. Yeah. And I know I hear a lot of Black women, we complain about Black men, how they're not stepping up. And that's a whole nother story. And we can hold Black men accountable for their part in it. However, until we hold ourselves accountable, not only as Black women, right? And we talked about this too, as Black people as a whole, we want to be respected as a community and stuff. Well, we got to start respecting ourselves first.
Yeah.
I've always said that. So we got to help ourselves first. As Black women, we got to help ourselves first. And as a community as a whole, we got to help ourselves first. I don't expect, people who are not Black to respect us if we don't respect us.
And I think that's where we are. I think a lot of times we hold the fire to other people, and we don't hold the fire to ourselves.
Right.
Until we can,
and looking outside of self to expect somebody to fix us, I just think doesn't make sense.
No,
I don't white, like Kwame been saying lately. I don't expect white zaddy to to fix us. That's not their job. We're responsible for our own. So I love us having these conversations and talking about this. And we just want to thank people who joined
yes.
the conversation. Kimberly Elaine, thank you for being here. Kevin in sales, thank you for being here. Anybody else who joined the stream,
yes.
Thank you so much. Make sure that you like,
share,
and subscribe to the channel. And we will definitely see you next week. Thank you guys so much. Bye.